Whatismypodcastabout, a podcast where we get together on a fortnightly basis, talk about a random topic, see if we can figure out what our podcast is about. My name, as always, is Keith Ramsey, one of your hosts. Today I am joined by Matthew Grace.
Hello.
And Peter Akerley.
Hey!
So, we're getting to the end of the year, guys. This is our last official episode for the year. We do have a bonus episode that'll be coming out on New Year's, and you guys most likely just listen to the one that came out for Christmas at this point.
Yep.
So
I don't know why I'm saying I don't speak for our audience.
Are you sure you do quite a bit?
That's fair. I do like to interject on their behalf. I'm sure that will end in a couple days when I immediately alienate all the audience as a prediction for what's going to happen during our New Year's episode.
Fair enough. So we have already recorded that one because we wanted to keep this episode clean, and we didn't want to affect other things because we're gonna need a break from podcasting for
maybe
a fortnight, probably.
Because we're recording together as three friends at the moment.
Who knows if we'll still be friends when we're done recording?
Let's just have our friendly conversations about what's inspired over the last time since we were last recording an episode.
Yep.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Are you guys sure? Because a lot of stuff did happen.
No, sorry, I was questioning Matt on his claim of nothing has happened.
Because there was a little something called the Disney Investor Meeting that happened, and by God, did we get some announcements.
Oh?
I missed out on that happening. Let's hear about it.
So first off, they announced, it was all the different branches of Disney. So Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars, they all, National Geographic. We don't really care about that one that much, though. But
speak for yourself.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
But anyways, there was a lot of announcements of things moving forward. For example, for the Pixar announcement, the one that stood out for me is we're getting a movie called Lightyear. Which is,
I did hear about that one.
It's the origin story to Buzz Lightyear. Not the toy, but the space commander.
Oh!
Not even, a real man who the toy... So the toy is based off of an action movie, and the action movie is based off of the real person. So we're getting the story of the real person... Okay, real in Toy Story's canon, not in the real world.
Okay.
So it's going to be called Lightyear, and I believe it's Chris Evans.
It's Chris Evans.
Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah. I certainly hope we get, I guess, the origin of the catchphrase "to infinity and beyond."
Most likely.
It's used just once in the movie in some epic scene.
I have a feeling it'll come at the end of the movie, as Avengers Assemble came at the end of fucking Marvel Phase 4. So I have a feeling "to infinity and beyond" will be something he'll say just as the screen cuts to black.
Where are you going to go now? To infinity and beyond.
He blasts off into outer space.
And other news as well, Star Wars made quite a few announcements. So it looks like with Disney Plus, TV shows are trying to set up something like what they have with the Marvel MCU, which all takes place in the same era roughly as The Mandalorian. Because we're going to be getting an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, which has been confirmed to have Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen come back.
Yep.
I
was going to say, I believe we also got an announcement about the Book of Boba Fett, which is going to be another Disney Plus series about Boba Fett's life.
So that actually wasn't announced at the investor meeting. It was on the 10th, and then the season finale of The Mandalorian came out, which hinted at it.
Fair. But it's another thing that has been...
And they did the classic Star Wars thing of end credit scene, and Boba Fett will return in the Book of Boba Fett. So Star Wars is stealing from Marvel now.
Yep.
We got confirmation of a series called Bad Batch, which is about a bunch of clones.
Nice.
And the one I'm the most excited for, because I was the most excited for Obi-Wan, and they announced this, they're doing a Rogue Squadron TV series.
Ooh, that actually does sound pretty good.
So for those that don't know, Rogue Squadron is a series of books. It's the X-Wing unit that essentially Luke belongs to. They were Red Squadron, and then became Rogue Squadron because a lot of them just died, and Wedge is kind of the main character. Unfortunately, I don't think we're getting much Wedge, but I'm still looking forward to it, because I've always... In Star Wars, it might be weird, but I've always enjoyed the space fighter combat stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
More so than most of the universe. And then finally, the big announcements. So Marvel kind of just cleared everything out. So we got an announcement. Ant-Man movie is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Ooh.
Cassie Lang will be returning as
Ghost?
the older person.
Oh, the older person. Oh, okay.
Yep. And the villain is going to be Kang the Conqueror.
Oh, I love Kang the Conqueror.
We got 2 announcements for Guardians of the Galaxy. So Guardians of the Galaxy, we're getting I Am Groot, which is going to be a mini-series of Baby Groot going on adventures.
Okay.
We're also going to get the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Next holiday. So that's going to be 2021.
I'm going to be honest, historically, space movie holiday specials have not always turned out well, so I don't know what to think of this one just yet.
But to be fair, James Gunn is doing this one.
Okay, then that's a better sign than George Lucas doing it.
We got an announcement of a new character being introduced to the universe through Disney Plus, and that is going to be Ironheart.
Okay.
So that's the person who kind of is the spiritual successor to Tony Stark in the comics.
Okay.
Riri Williams ends up making her own Iron Man armor based off the Tony Stark stuff, and kind of becomes the new Iron Hero Ironheart.
I see.
We also got an announcement that Don Cheadle is going to get his own spin-off, which is called Armor Wars. It looks like they're doing the Extremis storyline, but with him instead of Tony Stark, because Tony Stark's dead. So Tony's died, and his technology gets in the wrong hands, and it's up to War Machine to kind of protect the legacy of Tony Stark.
I like that.
We also got two pretty crazy announcements that I don't think anyone was expecting. So we got an announcement that Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury and Telos from the Captain Marvel movie are going to be returning in a Secret Wars TV show. Or Secret Invasion, I mean.
Okay. Less exciting, but still exciting.
Secret Invasion. So it's going to follow the plot of another faction of Skrulls who have infiltrated Earth, and them trying to hunt them down. And Fantastic Four was announced.
Yep.
Again?
And the director of Fantastic Four is the person who did Spider-Man 2.
Okay. So are they rebooting it again? Is this going to be...
Yes.
Okay.
This is the 3-boot. We're just kind of moving past it, all right?
Now, I've also skimmed through quite a few things. They made a lot of casting announcements about a bunch of the other series that are existing, such as Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, so on and so forth, She-Hulk. They made all those announcements. For example, they did 100% confirm that the events of WandaVision go right into Doctor Strange 2, and Doctor Strange 2 is also going to have America Chavez appear.
Okay.
So there's a lot of big announcements happening that are kind of setting up the universe going forward. As for the thing about the reboot, it looks like with what's going on with Spider-Man, they're very much setting into that all the other Marvel stuff we've seen pre the MCU is part of the canon, but in different universes. Especially if what's speculated about the Spider-Man movie is going to be correct, which is going to be a Spider-Verse movie which is going to show that there's a bunch of different connecting things, and WandaVision and Doctor Strange might be doing that as well.
Okay.
They're finally bringing the multiverse into the MCU from what it looks like.
All right. Just in case they decide to slash some of them and continue with others.
Yeah. But essentially, Phase 4 officially starts with WandaVision, which comes out January 15th, so I am very much looking to that starting. We had a full year without Marvel, essentially.
It was a rough year, I'll be honest. But 2021, it's going to be different.
It's a marvel that we made through it.
I don't know if I'm confident enough to say that 2021 will be different. I hope it'll be different, but who knows what'll happen.
The thing I'm looking forward to is because some of you listening might have noticed that we did do our predictions of Phase 4. Once that starts getting underway, I kind of want to go back and listen to it, and then maybe we should revisit and see how we got
I
there.
definitely think we should end up doing a recap of that and seeing what we were right about and what we were wrong about. So we already mentioned that the final episode of The Mandalorian was released. I would say overall, as a whole, the second season has been quite enjoyable. I was a little bit disappointed with the ending of... Yes.
It was a very disappointing ending.
Thank you. There were so many people online being like, oh, the perfect ending. I'm like, no, it's not.
It was cool, but disappointing.
Yeah. There were better ways they could have done it. They could have brought in more characters to the fucking more popular front of Star Wars instead of just trying to tie it back to the Skywalker story.
Which is always, I find that's where a lot of the extra media kinds of fails. It always feels the need to tie back to the Skywalker. But at the same time, when Baby Yoda reached out to someone in the Force, I'm like, given this time frame, there's really only one person who is guaranteed to sense him.
Yeah. My biggest issue with this, though, is we know from the novelizations of The Rise of Skywalker that Luke's first Padawan was Ben Solo at the age of 10, which is 6 years after Mandalorian takes place. And Matt and also all of our fans who haven't watched Mandalorian yet, I apologize. Fans, you have less of an excuse because at this point it's been like a week and a half.
I also time code things here, so this is probably going to be our last thing before we get into the episode, so just look at that and then just skip ahead to that part.
Matt, I'm apologizing, but honestly, it's your own fault for not being up to date on pop culture things. So the person who Grogu reached out to through the Force to train him was Luke Skywalker, so Luke Skywalker came in to take him in as a Padawan. My biggest issue with that is now he's taking Grogu on as a Padawan. Also, Grogu is Baby Yoda's name.
I already
Okay,
heard about that.
Alright, so yeah, he's taking Grogu
Also, Yoda
on.
died.
Also, yeah, Yoda died.
So did Yaddle.
In the original trilogy. So... Spoilers! So yeah, he takes Grogu on as his Padawan, makes a big deal about how he has to be trained, and there's this big emotional scene of Mandalorian passing off Yoda, Baby Yoda / Grogu. My biggest issue with that is, as I've stated, this takes place 6 years before Luke starts his academy and starts training Padawans, and it's explicitly stated in the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker that Ben Solo is his first Padawan at the age of 10, which is, 6 years after this happens. So they're just straight up changing fucking canon at this point.
Unless for some undisclosed reason he decided to keep teaching Grogu a secret.
Yeah, because this wasn't the final to The Mandalorian. There's going to be more Mandalorian, but they said it's going to take place after the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to get like a time skip where he comes back and Grogu's a bit older, but...
It hasn't ruined, like, it's nowhere near ruining the series or anything like that. It's just...
It was just an anticlimactic ending.
Yeah. It was a disappointing thing because, as we talked about when we actually did our episode on Season 1 of The Mandalorian, the big issue with a lot of Star Wars stuff is that they keep trying to tie it back to the Skywalker story and trying to raise the stakes. One of the things we really enjoyed about this, or one of the things I really enjoyed about it at the very least, was the fact that they allowed it to be its own thing and allowed it to stand on its own legs. Like, one of the things that I found super phenomenal about this second season specifically is throughout the original trilogy and all of the mainline movies, TIE fighters are like such a non-existent threat. They're like flies to be swatted. The Mandalorian has made TIE fighters the most terrifying fucking thing. Anytime they show up, you know the stakes are immediately raised by like 10 times. So I don't know. I was just a little bit disappointed when they tried to tie it back to the Skywalker story. That is my thoughts on The Mandalorian. I'll stop talking about it now, I promise.
So I guess that means we're ready to get into our main topic for today. So we're going to be talking about the very controversial Christmas movie, or not Christmas movie, depending on who you ask, Die Hard.
First Die Hard.
Before we start fighting about this, can we all three of us agree on one thing, which is that this is a fantastic movie?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, good.
It's definitely a trend-setting action movie that changed a lot of the tropes, as we'll talk about through just discussing the plot specifically. But it's very debated because some people debate that this is a Christmas movie, while others debate that it is not. I, myself, am personally completely neutral. I do not care either way if it is a Christmas movie or not, but I can see both arguments.
Given that, I'm pretty sure we already stated our opinions on this a year ago when we were talking about Nightmare Before Christmas, we can just come out and say, Matt is very pro it's a Christmas movie, I'm very anti it's a Christmas movie.
Like, I can also see the arguments as to why people would consider it to not be a Christmas movie, but I'm in the camp that it is a Christmas movie.
I can see the arguments people would make for why it is, I just think those arguments are dumb.
So we're going to talk about the movie itself just on its own, and then at the end I'm going to let you guys fight it out, and I'll mediate. And then I got a little something to test how good you are at gauging if something's a Christmas movie or not.
Alright, so...
Is it a game? Like a off-brand Peter game?
Who knows?
Well, if it is...
Well, I don't like calling it an off-brand Peter game because that just makes Keith sound like off-brand Peter, and I don't agree with that assessment.
I'm the original.
Well, regardless, I already don't like this because we have a history of me losing these games.
That's true.
Oh, this game does not test your facts whatsoever.
Alright, so, open on John McClane on a plane, looking slightly uncomfortable.
Flying into Los Angeles.
This is where we get one of the defining story beats, which is the man sitting next to him on the plane explains that the best way to deal with jet lag is when you get to where you're going, you take your shoes and your socks off, and you ball your toes up into fists while standing on carpet.
Make fists with your toes.
And it'll perfectly fix any jet lag you're experiencing.
And according to John McClane, a couple scenes later, it works.
This is so funny, too, because, like, it's probably one of the funniest back and things. Like, trust me, I've been doing this for 9 years. And he gets up, and he sees clearly, like, and this is what really takes him as, like, well, it was a different time back in, like, the 80s, where he's got a gun holstered when he was sitting on the plane. Yeah. The guy sees, like, he starts panicking. He's like, don't worry, I'm a cop. Trust me. I've been doing it for 12 years.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. So, as if that made him any more comfortable with the situation.
Also, then he pulls the fucking giant-ass teddy bear out of the overhead compartment.
That is probably one of my favorite parts of this, is they introduce the idea of the giant teddy bear, and then never have it pay off at all.
I would argue that it pays off in some ways.
Oh, it pays off in the few scenes that it does show up.
Also, we know, as we find it later on, he has 2 children, his daughter and his son, and he's got 1 teddy bear.
Yeah.
So some would argue that this movie has a big arching plot of him trying to reconcile his relationship with his wife, and then they just never address the fact that his kids play any role in this, except for fucking up stuff later.
Yeah, so it's introduced fairly early on that he has a difficult relationship with his family, given that we overhear a conversation between his daughter and his mother on the phone, where his daughter is asking whether or not Daddy is going to make it home or not make it home, but come for Christmas, whether he was going to be there. And then she was unsure because no one had called, or he hadn't called ahead to say he was going to be there, so they weren't sure on the specifics.
Yeah. And as we get just a little further into the movie, we learn that his wife, Holly, had moved to Los Angeles to take a new job position, while John McClane stayed back where he was to continue working as a police officer in his jurisdiction.
Yeah, all this fun stuff gets explained by, I guess, exposition machine, Argyle, the limo driver.
Yes.
Well, that gets explained and then also reinforced when he gets to the Nakatomi Towers, the building where this whole movie takes place.
Yeah.
Where he searches the computer directory for who his wife should be, Holly McClane, but instead she's going by her maiden name, Gennaro.
Which, this is the weirdest exchange, too, because he's talking to the security guard, and he's like, oh, pretty high-tech toy you got here. And he's like, yeah, and if you have trouble pissing, it'll help you find your zipper. It's like, wait, what? What kind of comment is that?
It's like, sure, I get it's high-tech for this time, but really?
Also, another sign of how different the times were, in that they had a security guard who helped you find people in the building without having any clue who you are. He walked in with a gun, said he was looking for someone, and he was like, yep, there's their name, it'll tell you exactly where to find them and when they'll be alone. It's just like...
30th floor, take the express elevator right up. It's a Christmas party.
Yep,
they're the only people in the building.
Only people in the building. They're up there, I'm stuck here because I'm a security guard and the party's going on.
It was just... That movie could not be made today because there'd be so many questions. Why was he allowed a gun on the plane? Why didn't the security guard harass him even slightly for trying to go up there?
It's definitely a product of the times.
Yeah. So yes, he goes up to a party. During this time, we're also introduced to Holly's co-worker, Ellis, who's just scum.
Snorting back some cocaine.
Oh, doing like multiple bumps of cocaine.
Which is the funniest thing, too, because when he meets Takagi, and he's like, giving him the tour, he's like, okay, I'll take you to the office. And they get to Holly's office, and he's sitting there doing coke. And it's like, this is Holly's husband, Holly's cop. Hint, hint.
Yeah. The best part is, like, he clearly saw and acknowledges it because he points towards the desk and says, you missed some, pointing to remnants of cocaine still on the desk. But yes, at this point, John McClane makes a throwaway joke about how Japanese people don't celebrate Christmas, to which Takagi explains, oh, we may not have won Pearl Harbor, but we won the war of selling you tape decks, so that's something to celebrate.
And also, we're...
Who really won in the end?
Yeah, and we're multicultural. We do things.
Well, then Ellis also explains that this party is less of a Christmas party and more of a celebration of a great sale that Holly made earlier that day. Which is weird, because does that mean she made the sale and then they planned the party and had it the same day? Or did they know she was going to make the sale that day and planned ahead and
it's just like a situation where like she makes the sale, it's like, shit, we need to celebrate this, but like it's Christmas Eve and things are going to be closing. How do we get people to stay in the building and actually have security? Fuck, it's a Christmas party, I don't know.
No, I bet they had the plan in the works because she was working on the sale for a while. But they were banking on the fact that the sale would go through.
And Christmas was just a fallback plan. Like, if the sale fails, then fuck it, we'll just have a Christmas party.
Oh, we have all the supplies and there's no reason to celebrate anymore? It's Christmas. Yay.
And these are kind of like the main players. We got Holly, Takagi, Ellis, and John McClane. And then we start getting the introduction of...
Argyle. Can't forget Argyle, the limo driver.
He's kind of there a bit. He's like important for 2 scenes.
He's important for the beginning and end of the movie and nothing in the middle.
And one little bit in the middle.
I don't know that.
Towards the end.
I'm counting that as the end part that he's...
And then at this point we also get the introduction to the terrorists, led by Hans Gruber, played by Alan Rickman, which one of his best roles, I might say.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing I noticed, I don't know why I never noticed this before, but Ode to Joy gets played a lot in this movie.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's not just Ode to Joy itself, but they have variations depending on the scene. For example, when he's getting off the plane at the beginning, John McClane, it's, kind of like a Jingle Bell rendition of it, where it's just the bells shaking the song.
Yeah.
But then when Hans Gruber comes in, it's like a really dark piano, like slow version, as the truck's driving up.
My favorite use of Ode to Joy, though, cutting ahead a little bit, I'm not going to explain the scene at all, But there's a point where FBI agents are like, oh, the terrorists are probably shitting their pants now. And then it just cuts to the terrorists while it's playing the most jaunty and upbeat version of Ode to Joy.
Yeah.
So yes, we're introduced to the terrorists. This is happening while John McClane is testing his foot fist on carpet technique.
Him and his wife got into a little bit of an argument, so he's alone in their apartment room while his wife went back to the party.
So this is one of the things where I was talking about that John McClane is, in this movie itself, is kind of like the shifting of tropes when it comes to action heroes. So up to this point, action heroes tend to be the cold, heartless killing machines that they just go in guns a-blazing, don't really care about anything else as long as they're killing the bad guy.
You didn't need to emphasize with heroes before that. This is the first one that really made you emphasize with the protagonist.
By today's standards, he's not really, that relatable, I would say. But, it holds up to a fact. You can still kind of understand where he's coming from. And he even acknowledges he's making mistakes, when he gets to that little argument with his wife. Because, as we find out, he has a bit of an anger problem.
Yeah. And he specifically says that he came over to Los Angeles to try to fix mistakes that he's made. And just try to get together for the holidays and have
and he cares about the people that are in danger. He's trying to save them, but stuff does happen. And
he's more focused on his job than he should be.
I think one of the biggest efforts, and had probably the biggest payoff towards them making him more of a relatable character, is the fact that he talks to himself. Characters talking to themselves is not the most relatable thing, but he specifically...
Speak for yourself.
He talks to himself in such a way that anytime you question why he's doing something, he explains his thought process out loud to himself so that the audience can understand why he's doing the things that he's doing.
There's a scene after the terrorists end up taking the building and John escapes from the room and he forgets his shoes and most of his stuff. He goes up to one of the higher floors and sees that they're interrogating Takagi to get the passcode for one of the things. This helps them, but that's not required because they have a genius hacker with them. And Takagi ends up I don't have the information, just have to kill me. And he shoots him, and then John sees this, runs for it, and that's when they realize, oh, there's another person in the building. And afterwards, he's talking to himself, why didn't you save him, John? You could have saved him, he was right there, because you'd be dead, asshole!
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a perfect example of him kind of explaining his own logic throughout the movie. Because it happens repeatedly. That's the most iconic moment, but there are multiple times of him talking to himself to explain why he's doing the things he's doing.
Yeah, so for now it's him talking to himself while he's trying to figure out how to do things, until a little later on where he gets a little bit of police involvement.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, his first reaction to dealing with this is not to, guns a-blazing, I have to save everybody, it's, I need to find a way to alert other authorities.
Yeah, because he's a police officer, but he's way out of his jurisdiction, so he wants to get some people who can actually do some help.
Yeah, I would say the first act of the post-terrorism part is him just trying different methods to get the authorities involved. His first attempt is he tries to set off a fire detector, or fire alarm.
Yeah.
Which the security guard has already been replaced, so they just pretend to be the security guard and say, false alarm, don't bother coming out. Once again, another sign of the times, because right now, as it is, I'm pretty sure if an apartment or a high-rise building has a fire alarm go off, the fire department at least has to show up.
I believe that's always kind of been the fact. This is just
Okay, fair.
People not giving a shit. Which also gets exemplified later with his second attempt where he uses the radio to contact the police. And it's this is emergency channel for emergency situations. It's does it sound like we're trying to order a fucking pizza?
Yeah, that was a great fucking line. And it's another one of those scenes where he grabs one of the radios from one of the terrorists after he kills one of them.
Heads up to the roof for the best reception.
And tries to radio in an emergency, to which the police are just not having it. And he ends up...
Finally, his call gets cut off by a blaze of gunfire from the quote-unquote terrorists.
The best part about that is she clearly hears the gunfire through the headset because she takes the headset off and she's like, oh, that was so loud.
You know, we need to solve this. I'm going to send one police officer who's notorious for not pulling his gun.
Just send one person over there just to check on things.
The best part is, he checks in and he's like, I'm heading over there now. And she's like, don't worry too much about it. It was probably a prank call. It's like, you heard the fucking gunfire. Why are you so convinced this is a prank call?
Also, I want to backtrack here to the guy that he kills, because there's a lot of good lines here, because he's going up looking for him, and because of the radio situation. This is before the radio situation.
This is the fire alarm situation.
Yeah, but he pulls his gun on the guy and tells him to freeze, and the guy immediately puts two and together, oh, it's a cop. And his line is you won't shoot me. He's like, oh yeah, why not? It's you're a police officer. You have rules. And he's like, yeah, my chief keeps trying to tell me that, just punched him in the head. Yeah. Which also, this interaction where this guy is trying to be so don't worry, I won't hurt you, and then immediately jumps the box and just starts firing wildly.
It's also where one of the most iconic scenes of the movie comes, where he takes the terrorist's machine gun.
Then I think in blood, unless he had access to a red Sharpie, but I'm pretty sure it's in blood that's just not smearing. Right,
It's an office building. It's probably supply closet.
Yeah.
He writes sweater. Now I have a machine gun. Ho ho ho.
And sits him in an office chair and sends him down the elevator to the party.
Which is in correspondence to Hans Gruber giving the speech like, I want no misunderstanding. I have full control of the situation. We are the ones in charge. Elevator opens up, dead guy.
Well, the weirdest part is he does it in such an elaborate fashion of like he rigs up Buddy in the elevator. He then climbs into the elevator, sets it running down to the floor with the office party, stops it halfway between floors, pries the doors open, climbs back out, then closes the doors and allows it to keep going. Why didn't he just like push the button and then leave the elevator?
He could have did that because, well, gotta say right now that the upper floors of the building are under construction. That's why there's like no one there and just a bunch of scaffolding and such. And my guess why he did that is probably so he could get easy access to the maintenance tunnels. Because I imagine those doors would be locked.
Yeah, he used it from the other side because if you remember when they're getting this thing, he's on top of the elevator.
That's right. I completely forgot that he gets on top of the elevator. That explains everything. My apologies. I'm just a dumb idiot. So yes, he climbs on top, and that's when he starts finding out some names and using a Sharpie to write on his arm the names of the different terrorists so you can keep track of who's alive and who's dead.
Making a list.
It's also right around this time that it's the police officer ends up showing up.
Yep.
And it looks like everything's going well for the terrorist at this point. It seems that he's buying it, he's getting ready to leave. And this is also when two other guys end up attacking John, and he ends up having to kill them. We get the one guy who's trying to surrender, and he's like, well, on top of the table saying, you should have killed me when you had the chance. You're never going to make that mistake again. And he's he's antagonizing him. He reloads the fucking gun.
Yeah.
And then just gets pumped full of lead by John McClane. It's like, thanks for the advice.
Yeah. Also at this point, we should address the first man that John kills is the brother of the secondary antagonist of this movie. One of the terrorists who, as soon as his brother is killed, his goal is no longer complete this terrorism mission and get paid.
It's to kill
kill John McClane at all costs. To the point where when the police police officer arrives, he's like hunting him through the halls, and Hans Gruber gets on the radio and he's like, don't shoot him, just trap him in a room somewhere. If there's gunfire, the police officer's gonna hear it.
We're not ready for police intervention yet, so stay quiet.
Unfortunately, does not work out that way. So yes, police officer name's Al. Clearly, like, not super enthusiastic about his job because
it's Christmas Eve. He wants to go home.
Give some Twinkies to his wife.
Give us a red flag of my wife is pregnant.
Yeah, I'm 3 days away from retirement. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, he enters the Nakatomi Plaza lobby. Starts walking in to check out the place. We see, like, an angle from, like, around the first corner as you start walking towards the elevator bank. There's, one of the terrorists has a gun ready, and he gets ready to pull it on Al, and then Al's just like, fuck it. Seeing half of the lobby is probably enough to ensure nothing shady's going on here.
Everything seems fine. It's nice and quiet. It's Christmas Eve. Nothing's going on. So he's like, yeah, I'm just going to leave now. He's like, have a good Christmas to the guy behind the security desk, and gets back in his car to start driving away.
Yeah, this is when John throws one of the terrorists out and it slams onto the hood, and then all the terrorists decide, that's the signal, guys! And just start shooting the car.
Yeah, the terrorist's dead body hits the hood of the police car, which sends Al into a frenzy. He's freaking out, calling for backup, hightailing it out of the parking lot, because immediately all of the terrorists at the windows just start to open fire on the police car.
Well, of course. The moment a dead body gets thrown through the window, you know more cops are going to come to investigate.
Oh, yeah.
So their top priority is to kill him before he can radio in and tell them what just fucking happened.
But Al ends up getting away and calling for backup. And I kind of want to jump ahead to something. So we have the deputy chief of police that shows up.
Oh, this fucking guy.
And the thing I love about this, too, is because there's a part where... Because Al and John have been talking for a bit this time, and Al suspects that he's a cop just the way he's talking about certain things. And he's trying to convince the chief that, the person I'm talking to is one of our guys. He's helping us. And then he's like, I don't trust him. He could be one of the terrorists. Like, well, how do you explain the dead body? I don't know. Stockbroker got depressed and took a step off the ledge. And it's like, wait.
We know there's terrorists in there. It's like, you don't know that. Maybe it was just the guy you were on the radio with shooting at you. It's like, he was shot from multiple fucking machine guns. Also, it clearly wasn't one guy.
They clearly
There's one terrorist that's a prankster in that building and a really depressed guy that's doing stockbroking.
They clearly pointed out machine guns, which, aren't typically regulated. They're not hunting rifles or anything. They're not simple sidearms.
Well, that's here. In the U.S., it's very different.
True,
Yes.
true.
In the US, you go to
Still.
Walmart and you get 3 for free.
Mm.
The police start to arrive. At this point, Al also takes out his radio and goes to the frequency that John used earlier to try and contact the police and starts radioing back and forth with them. Also, I want to address something. John McClane uses the radio to contact emergency services, and the way that the police, or not the police, the way that the terrorists catch on to it is as he's radioing the police, the terrorists downstairs hear it on their radios too, but the police specifically say this frequency is for emergencies only. So are the terrorists just using the police emergency frequency for all their terrorist shenanigans? In which case, that's some real fucking oversight on their
So
side.
what I think was going on here is the terrorists are using their own frequency, but I think that was another radio because it's not all the terrorists, it's the one with Hans Gruber. So I think he was monitoring the emergency line in case anything came through.
That
makes
would make sense.
It wasn't really explained, but it does make sense.
Yeah, I think it's just a contextual thing because it only plays on that one radio,
Yeah.
the emergency conversation. That's the one that Gruber has with him, and he ends up speaking with the police and John at the same time.
And they don't ever pick that radio up.
Yeah, and he's also, then when he's talking to the other people, they're not picking up the information that we see, and neither is John necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's more so...
Yeah, and they clue in that he must be on the roof because that's where he'd get the best signal.
Yeah.
We also get, some weird shenanigans that go down. So, John McClane does his best to get police to show up to help resolve the situation. As we said, his goal in the beginning is not to kill the terrorists himself, it's to get the proper authorities involved. The moment the proper authorities get involved, he's pretty relieved. They then make the plan of breaching the building to get inside to capture the terrorists, to which John's immediately like, no, I've been telling you that these are terrorists, why are you trying to breach the building? It's like, but you want them to resolve the situation. What is your end goal here, John?
I think he was wanting a negotiation, which is also a far-fetched thing for an action hero.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this, too, is...
I think it was more the fact that they were breaching the front door.
That's fair.
Fair.
But the thing that's interesting about this, too, is, we forgot to mention, but with the second group of terrorists that he killed, or I don't know why we're saying terrorists, because the whole thing with them being terrorists is actually a ruse. They're actually just heistmen. They're stealing bank bonds.
That's the thing I wanted to go back to earlier. So, when Takagi is first brought into the kind of room with the terrorists before he's killed, I don't know why I keep calling them terrorists too, the criminals. Hans Gruber explains that he wants to get the $600 million in bearer bonds out of the safe, and Takagi says, what kind of terrorists want money? And Hans Gruber's like, who said we were terrorists? And it's like, your whole deal right now is that you're pretending to be terrorists. Why are you now claiming you're not terrorists? Then later on at the end of the movie, he says, we're not we're criminals, we're robbers who are upgrading ourselves from robbers to kidnappers. It's just like, but you're already a terrorist. How are you upgrading to kidnapping from terrorism? You're already at the highest level. You can't go up from there.
So John ends up getting the detonators specifically.
Because they've got a bunch of C4. Enough C4 to quote-unquote send Schwarzenegger into orbit.
So this becomes kind of like the main reason that they're, aside from the one guy who wants to kill him for killing his brother, Hans doesn't really give a shit about John because he's just, something that's issue in the plan, but not a big one. But he needs the detonators, and the detonators are the big thing that he needs for his plan to work.
Yeah.
So that becomes most of the negotiations at this point, to the fact that John at this has C4, charges, detonators, machine guns. He's kind of loaded out right now. And this is when the police start trying to get into the building, so they send a SWAT team, and this is where we find out, they do actually have those rocket launchers there for a very good reason, even though one of those guys ended up fucking dropping the warhead.
Yeah. So he drops a rocket, and then as the SWAT team's pulling up in their vehicle to kind of rescue the first guys who tried to breach, they just start repeatedly firing rockets at the
big armored vehicle that came up.
Yeah.
So John's plan to deal with this is he puts a lot of charges into one C4, puts it with a computer, and rolls it off into the elevator.
Yeah. Which causes a massive explosion.
Taking out the terrorists in the lobby with the rocket launchers.
Yeah. I initially took issue to this because it was a very large explosion for a single piece of C4, and then I remembered there's a whole bunch of fucking rockets right next to the elevator too, so that probably increased the size of the explosion.
Now, the thing that I find funny about this scene too is when all the criminals inside the building are getting ready for the police to go in, there's one guy who gets behind a candy stand,
And he immediately steals some candy.
No, but that's not the reason I found it funny. I find it funny because he's there with his gun waiting, and he looks down, he glances, he sees, like, the crunch bar, and he's like, And then what he does is he fucking looks around to see if anyone would notice him stealing the crunch bar.
He looks around at his compatriots, and he just slowly reaches under the counter.
It's like, man, we may be stealing $600 million / committing terrorism, but... I think they'll be upset with me if I steal candy.
Stealing candy wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, because I never even thought about that before, but just watching it this last time, I was like, did you just fucking look around to see if anyone saw him steal a candy bar when he's already taken hostages?
So we should also probably address the worst character in the movie who has been introduced at this point, which is the TV reporter who finds out that there's terrorism happening at Nakatomi Plaza, and his first thought is, I gotta get down there with a TV crew to film this so that I can be the one to report on it. The people in the building he's working in are not on board with this. Studio, that's the word. People in the studio are not on board with this. Says, I will fucking steal a van if I have to. I'm going to report on this. And they're like, alright, fine, take van number 5. Just fucking get out of here.
Even the news people don't want to deal with him.
Yeah. He ends up reporting on it. And he, like, goes out of his way to reveal specific details about John McClane during this fucking event.
Because up until now, John McClane, since he was using the radar that the criminals were able to listen in on, he was using that to talk to the police officer, Al. He was using an alias for himself. He was calling himself Roy.
Roy Rogers.
Now, an interesting thing about this, too, is because before the newscaster ends up fucking up the whole plan, there's a point here where Ellis gets the bright idea on how to negotiate out of the situation, and this is probably the funniest fucking thing ever, because he fucking says the line, Hans, booby!
My man!
It's hilarious, because he starts explaining, he's like, oh, John, you gotta get down here. He's like, what did you tell him, Ellis? He's like, I told him that you're my friend for 20 years, and I invited you to this party. Like, you gotta get down here, John.
You're my good friend who killed, like, 7 other guys.
Yes.
And then he's like, John, if you don't get down here, they're gonna kill me.
they're gonna shoot me in the head. And then he, like, covers the radio. He's, like, snickering to Hans. He's like, I really got him on the ropes. And then Hans pulls out a gun.
He's like, he put the gun on the table. He's like, Hans, why you put out the gun? It's radio, not showbiz.
I'm not a method actor. I got this. This is radio, not TV.
Hans, booby, put the gun away.
And then he takes it and he's like, John, they're gonna kill me. It's like, Ellis, you need to tell them you don't fucking know me. You're going to get yourself killed. The most annoying part about this is the police are obviously listening because it's on the radio.
Yeah, and this is how they find out that John's name is John.
Yes.
And how the reporter finds out, because he's also listening in on the radio.
Yeah.
The thing I love about this, too, is that Ellis's final act of defiance essentially is like, I got this can of Coke and I'm going to finish this can of Coke before I die.
Yeah.
He starts fucking chugging the glass.
So, he gets shot in the fucking head, and immediately the police are like, what the fuck, John? Why didn't you give the terrorists the detonators? That one guy would have lived if you gave them the detonators and definitely would have died 20 minutes later when they used the detonators to detonate something.
Also, I don't know anything about explosions, even though they had that rocket in the detonator, so we're gonna assume there's no explosions from this point on.
Yeah. The plan continues pretty badly for John. He ends up getting shot at repeatedly.
So we actually, this is probably one of my favorite things in the whole movie that comes up here is, at this point, Hans kind of has to do stuff himself. And this is where we get Hans and John meeting for the first time in person.
And Hans pretending to be Bill Clay, one of the employees of the business.
Who snuck away from the party for a smoke, and now he's scared, cowering up on the roof.
And this is about like a background film thing, because I know some things about filmmaking itself. And they use Dutch angles for the rest of the scene, whereas the tilted things to make you unnerved, because we as the audience know that, well, these two people are trying to kill each other, and Hans knows who he is, but John, we don't know if he knows who Hans is.
And it's actually really well done, because it shows, like, Hans constantly, like, trying to, like, get to a gun so that he can shoot John McClane. And John's just like, oh, no, don't go back there. Come over this way. We gotta stick together if you want to live. Hans is like, oh, okay. And then John McClane just straight up hands him a fucking gun.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, no, Johnny boy, you've done it now. And then we find out that as Han pulls the gun on him and speaks into the radio, telling his friends to get up, co-workers, compatriots, tells them to come up there to help kill John McClane. John's like, you idiot. And then we find out that the gun that John gave him was actually empty. John does not use this opportunity to kill Hans, though. Instead, he gets disrupted by bad guys.
Yeah, and this is where Hans realizes that he doesn't have shoes, and he tells the rest of the guys, shoot the glass.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is kind of like another famous thing for the movie of, like, John taking a beating through this and his feet getting all fucked up in this. And
because like most action movies, like the action hero goes through with maybe a couple scratches, but nothing ever really hinders them.
Definitely before this, action heroes were superheroes.
Yeah.
It's become a bit of a trope to show the action hero suffering wear and tear since this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that's funny about this, too, is I don't know how notorious you guys know what this feet thing was, but there was a series of die-hard video games that came out for, like, the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, and your health bar was your fucking feet.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that.
I have never played these die-hard video games, so I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
So another thing to address is, at this point, the FBI has shown up to take over the crime scene.
Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson.
No relation.
This movie goes out of its way to show that the FBI are really just shitheads in all capacities.
But that's the other fun thing, because I think there's some sort of, like, level of awareness with this, because in any other action movie prior to this, those two would have been the heroes.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas in this movie, they're dumbasses who assist the terrorists, and every single action they do makes life easier for the terrorists and worse for John McClane.
Because they're running this as a standard terrorist op, and they're running things by, I quote, the book.
Which Hans expected.
Yeah,
So he made his plan entirely around the FBI showing up to intervene.
Yeah, because
All
the
right,
last
so
thing in the
let's-
vault is the electromagnetic lock, which they needed the power cut, but you couldn't cut the power internally because it's a vault built to be around that. So we needed the FBI to show up, and that's why they were pretending to be terrorists, so they'd follow the playbook for that and shut off the whole power grid, thus releasing the lock.
Yeah, so
Because they could
throughout
drill through all the locks except that last one.
So yes, throughout this movie, it's been explained that there are 7 locks on this door. The first 6 they can get through traditional methods, but the 7th lock is an electromagnetic lock that will kick in and refuse to open the door no matter what you do. And the only way to do it is to shut off power, but the power is through the whole building, so you'd have to shut off building power externally to do it. And it's been this whole thing of Hans explaining that he's going to pull off a miracle, and he'll solve it for them.
Open one big Christmas present, as he puts it.
And
And
then
it's like, gentlemen, you wanted a miracle? I give you a miracle. Introducing the FBI.
And this is the best fucking part, because this is what I was talking about earlier, where the FBI are now flying, where they're like, oh, the terrorists are probably shitting their pants now that we shut off the power, and it's just like, cuts to the terrorists grabbing money and singing Ode to Joy.
Yeah.
I think the song in the soundtrack is called Joyful Joyful, and it's, them opening the vault, the light coming out, everyone's all happy, they're grabbing
the terrorists have won effectively at this point.
They're grabbing the bearer bonds, they are rich.
Yeah.
They have got what they came for.
So, FBI have cut power, terrorists have gotten everything they want, and it's going well for them. At this point, John McClane is starting to wonder, something seems off about this whole plan. Tells Al to fuck off while he thinks about it to himself. And realizes, what the hell was Hans Gruber doing up by the roof?
And so, the quote-unquote terrorists get in contact with the FBI. The FBI's like, what are your demands? And they make the typical demands. We're going to send, and then say we're going to send all the hostages up onto the roof where you can pick them up with helicopters and give us a helicopter to escape with also.
Yeah, and the FBI like, yeah, sure, why not? And we quickly find out near the climax of the movie that their plan wasn't to do that. They're going to just raid the building. And one of them says, so I think we can do this with maybe, losing 25% of the hostages? And the other guy's like, I can live with that.
Once again, showing how much of shitheads the FBI are. So yes, we get that. We then have John McClane go to check out the roof and discover their whole plan is there's bombs planted all around the roof. And so once the hostages are up there and the helicopters land, they're going to blow the roof, and in the rubble, hopefully the FBI assumes that the terrorists were up there with the hostages.
Yeah.
So everyone's dead, and there's no one to track down what happened to the 600 million bearer bonds. The
perfect crime.
The perfect crime. John discovers this, realizes that everyone's gone to the roof, and so he has to get people off the roof because it's wired to explode. Because he sees just... So we've seen a single stick of C4 blow up an entire floor of this building, and then we see hundreds of sticks of C4 underneath the roof. Like, it's gonna be big.
Yeah, and so John McClane is up there, and he's shouting at all of the employees of the tower to get off the roof. It's gonna blow up, but no one's listening to him. So he just starts firing off machine gun shots into the air.
To which the FBI agents...
Who are on their way up, like, oh, there's a terrorist, let's take him out!
To be fair, this is one of the more reasonable deductions they make. They assume he's a terrorist firing on the hostages. I mean, the fact that he's pointing his gun into the sky is not a great sign for them, but it's their least dumb leap in life.
I think they were just waiting for an excuse. They could just start shooting.
Yeah. I mean, sure, he did manage to coax everyone back inside off of the roof, but the FBI did also start opening up on John McClane, so he had to quickly make his way back inside.
However, with them strafing fire, he has no means to get to the stairs back inside. He has to come up with a slightly unconventional way of getting into the building, which is he ties a hose around himself for an emergency fire.
Another trope that has been used a few times in other action movies since.
Yep.
Yep, and then leaps off the side of the building and crashes into the window below. At this point, John seems to have figured everything out. He seems to be kind of aware of what's going on. And it's just a matter of killing the last
Now, to
three
be fair,
people.
though, Hans also figured it all out because of a certain newscaster.
Who explained that John was there visiting his wife, who he was having troubled times with, puts on the kids. Okay, so this is one of the more fucked up scenes. Is he goes to the family home of Holly Gennaro, and knocks on the door. The lady, what's the word I'm looking for? Housekeeper. Thank you. The housekeeper who's looking after the kids answers the door, and she's like, "No, you can't come in and talk to these kids." And the reporter's like, "You let me in or I'm reporting you to INS and you're going back to wherever the fuck you came from." Which is already a little fucked up. He breaks down the door. Well, not breaks down the door. He pushes his way into the home and starts interviewing, is the polite way I'm going to phrase it, the kids. He then grabs the kids and, it doesn't show this happening, but he puts them into the van because you see them coming out of the van when they get back to Nakatomi Plaza. So he grabbed children and brought them to the site of a terrorist attack where the parents were already in danger. So maybe he's just going to make sure all the family dies off at once. I don't understand what his plan is.
No one can sue him that way.
Fair,
yeah. All he cares about is his views. But, so that's how Hans Gruber realizes, his wife is here at the party.
Which is the fun reveal of, he turns around, because he
Yeah.
keeps looking at the photos, and she put down the one photo that had him in it at the beginning. He turns around and lifts it up and sees it. It's like,
Yeah, and the way he figures it out is when they're interviewing the kids, you can see Holly getting visibly upset about the fact that her children are on screen. Mm-hmm. And that's how Hans puts two and two together and figures they're her kids, and since they're also his kids, they're married.
Yeah.
We then have 4 terrorists left. Okay, 4 terrorists left. One of them is handled by Argyle. The other 3...
who spent most of the event in the back of the limo, parked in the underground parking, listening to music on blast and drinking. With the teddy bear.
Because like a bro, he dropped off John McClane at the beginning, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, just let me know how things go. If things are good, I'll just drop off all your stuff at the lobby and have someone send them up to the room. If not, I'll be here for your ride.
Yeah, I'll take you to a hotel."
Yeah, I'll take you to a hotel after. I'll be your kind of fall guy help assistant.
He specifically checked in and was like, "Do you have somewhere to go if this lovers reunion does not go well?" Mm-hmm. Which was super cool of him. So yes, he happens to see the hacker terrorist.
So it's about this time where he realizes, I'm locked in the parkade. And so he's driving around, sees no exit, and then sees the hacker guy coming out into the van to get their escape ready. Yeah,
so you see him drive an ambulance out of the back of the shipping truck that they drove into the basement before.
Now that's very suspicious.
He sees him loading it up with valuable goods, and then immediately Argyle does the badass thing of driving into him and T-boning him, and then climbing out of his car and knocking the hacker out in a single punch, making Argyle perhaps the most powerful person in the Die Hard universe. I don't know.
Using a single punch to take out an enemy.
Yeah. Then we have John McClane killing the last 3, which is another badass, iconic scene, which is he has a gun with no ammo in it, except the amount he used to kill one of the 3. He's then out of ammo in it, but Hans Gruber and the other terrorists don't know this, so they point their guns at Holly, and they're like, "You put your gun down right now, and slowly, or else your wife dies." He does that, puts his hands behind his head, and grabs a pistol with exactly 2 bullets, and shoots both Hans and the other terrorists.
He taped it on his back?
Well, it's because they have that little fun moment of, he puts the gun down, and then they're talking all the time. It's like, "You would have been a good cowboy too, Hans." And Hans like, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker."
Yeah.
and then they start laughing.
Yeah, they all start laughing, and it's like, First, like John starts laughing, and then Han's like, "That is pretty funny." Starts laughing, and the other guy's like, "Well, if everyone else is laughing, I guess I gotta laugh too."
And then, meanwhile, Holly's just like, "You're all crazy."
Yeah.
Finally, Hans Gruber starts falling out of the building.
Well, Hans Gruber's killed.
He's not dead yet.
He's
shot
shot and he falls.
Yeah.
Yes. He starts falling, grabs onto Holly, and this is where we get the actual Chekhov's gun. I thought the bear was going to be the Chekhov's gun my first time watching it. The actual Chekhov's gun is Holly's watch, which is mentioned in passing in the beginning, saying she got a golden Rolex for the deal that she completed earlier that day.
It's some weird thing where the Rolex is supposed to represent their failing marriage, and then by them using that to kill Hans Gruber, it saves the relationship.
I actually think it was more an idea of Ellis as a gift, because Ellis was trying to get with Holly.
That is very true.
But Ellis is dead, so I don't think that watch matters anymore.
Not anymore, no.
No, it was definitely the idea of the watch showed her commitment to her work more so than her marriage and to her coworkers like Ellis, and then throwing away the watch to kill a terrorist shows how much she actually loves John.
Also, fun fact for this scene, they didn't tell Alan Rickman that they were going to drop him.
Yeah, he was in the harness, and it was like, well, on the count of 3, we're going to drop you. He's like, okay, 1, drop him.
Yeah, and so that look of fear in his eyes in that scene was legitimate terror, because he thought something went completely wrong.
I really like that. So yeah, that is Die Hard.
Not quite, because they get down to the bottom, the relation's fixed. Alice drives out and doesn't immediately get shot by the police for some reason.
Crashes out of the parkade, and...
Alice,
Argyle, yeah. And the reporter comes over, tries to get words from Holly, and Holly just decks him in the face.
We also skipped over the one other thing that happens, which is Al has had this plotline so far where he explains that he didn't want to work the streets anymore, wanted to work the desk, had a bit of an accident.
He has a penchant for shooting children, and he can't stop.
Yeah, John makes fun of him for his accident, saying he probably ran over the chief's dog, and he's like, nope, shot a child, can't pull my gun anymore. And he's like, oh, fuck. And then right as John and Al are saying hello and thanks for getting me through this, buddy.
Also, John starts crying because he meets Al.
Yeah, the secondary antagonist from earlier, whose only goal in this entire movie has been to kill John, now comes walking out of the building after being hung on chains earlier.
Yeah,
and starts pulling his gun, to which Al immediately gets over his child murder fear because that guy right there. Definitely not a child. Very clearly a full-grown man.
No chance I can fuck this up. Accidentally shoots one of John's kids.
Pulls his gun and kills the fucking terrorist.
Which, another fucking thing, this man was hung with the gun in his hand, and they clearly had to unhang this man, bring him down, but never thought to remove the fucking gun from his hand.
Yeah. Clearly. So, that is Die Hard.
Yep, and after that man, Al, overcame his habit of shooting children, it really changed the Urkel show.
Yep. Drive off into the sunset in a broken limousine that Argyle is driving for them. Oh, not sunset, sunrise, it's morning now.
Yeah. Yep. It was a crazy Christmas.
So, do we get into it now?
So yeah, that's the Die Hard movie. It's definitely probably one of the top 10 action movies of all time, and it really shifted. It was really in the 80s here where we started seeing the action heroes become more grounded and realistic and care about what they were doing. So we see this with Riggs and Murtaugh and Lethal Weapon and Tequila and Hard Boiled, both action movies that came out at this time. So it was definitely a shift. This is one of the first ones that did it.
It definitely humanized action heroes a lot more. Before this, they were gods of destruction who walked through the battlefield killing anything that got in their way. Now they became a lot more human of characters.
Yeah.
Which I definitely think was a positive shift for the genre as a whole. But yes.
Because we have superhero movies now, and they are actual superheroes.
And grounded, funny enough.
Yeah.
The main issue with this movie is a silly little debate that has started on the internet that we're going to fucking resolve today.
So, I'm not sure if we'll resolve it, because
we will resolve it.
It's been going on ever since the movie came out.
It has not been going on since the movie came out.
So,
it has.
I guess before we get into this, there's a few things I want to just address with you guys. So, the big thing comes down to what makes a Christmas movie, I find, with this argument. So before we get into why it doesn't or does fit these requirements, what do you guys feel is required for a Christmas movie?
Well, I feel a Christmas movie really helps if it takes place around Christmas. It doesn't have to, but it really does help. And most Christmas movies typically have the theme, a big prevalent theme of family and togetherness and relationships and cherishing the bonds that you have.
So, I would argue not necessary for a Christmas movie, but a strong positive point for a Christmas movie is dealing with the meaning of Christmas, whatever the movie believes the meaning of Christmas is. But if there's a character trying to look into what the meaning of Christmas is, or another character explains the meaning of Christmas, then that makes it a Christmas movie. If Christmas somehow drives the plot forward, then that makes it a Christmas movie. If Christmas has no impact on the plot, then I don't think it's a Christmas movie. And it has to pertain to the traditional Christmas values that not all Christmas movies, but most Christmas movies have some form of the idea of togetherness or family or charity that it focuses on as an idea for the movie.
So, are you saying that, for both of you, that it has to have all of those requirements, or just some of those requirements?
I would say some of those. I'm not saying it has to have everything, because then no movie's a fucking Christmas movie unless it's one specific movie. But I would say that having none of them definitely makes it not a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's like, for instance, there is a movie I found out, It's a Wonderful Life. It was released around Christmas time, but was not intended to be a Christmas movie whatsoever. And I do believe... Was it that movie?
Wonderful Life? I know it's very much considered a Christmas movie.
It's very much a Christmas movie that my family watches every year.
It's considered a Christmas movie. It was never intended to be a Christmas movie, and there's never any Christmas Day in the movie, and most of it doesn't even happen in December.
I mean, it takes place over the course of several years.
Yeah.
The main plot thing is that it takes place on Christmas itself, because it's all about the fact that this guy is not making enough money, and he lost all his money, and he's going to lose his job, and he's not going to be able to provide gifts or anything for his family for Christmas. And the main crux of the movie, the climax, is him deciding not to kill himself, and that the world is better with him in it. And then a whole bunch of other people provide him with gifts and food for Christmas, so he can still celebrate with his family.
Yeah, but even the director said that he had never intended for it to be a Christmas movie. It was more a movie just about a man who thought he was down on his luck and didn't have anything in the world, and then he was shown otherwise.
Now, for a few other things that I've seen people mention that are kind of requirements for Christmas movies, one of them has been, I've seen quite a bit, is that has Santa involved in some capacity.
Not necessary.
Another one is that has Christmas music.
Helpful, but also, again, not necessary.
Now, one thing fun...
So, I would argue on that point, has Santa, once again, helpful but not necessary. Has Christmas music, can be helpful, but also does not make a Christmas movie.
Because Christmas music certainly does help to set the mood for Christmas.
Well, the other issue, too, is, some songs are, do you consider them Christmas songs, even though they're not necessarily? For example, some people would argue that Joyful, Joyful, Ode to Joy, whatever, is a Christmas song. Because a lot of, classical Beethoven stuff gets played at Christmas time.
Yeah.
But is it really a Christmas song?
In actuality, the song is not a Christmas song, but when used in a Christmas sense, just because it has that long connotation of being used for Christmas festivities.
Yeah, that's one thing.
In that situation, it is.
Gray area in these requirements. Now, I did go through it, and here's a funny enough thing for you. I went through and looked for movies that met these requirements. So I took classic Christmas movies and said to see if they met any of these requirements. And I could find Christmas movies that didn't have anything to do with family togetherness. I found movies that weren't on Christmas that were Christmas movies. Funny enough, I even found movies that didn't tackle the meaning of Christmas or have Santa Claus. I could not find a goddamn movie that didn't have a quote-unquote Christmas song in it.
Yeah. Just it's a given that any Christmas movie released will have some
I went through a shitload of Christmas movies, and I got a list of them I'm going to go over with you guys later on, but I could not find a single one without a Christmas song in it.
And I did come across a YouTube analysis video that went through and picked out in a couple different Christmas movies and Die Hard all of the different Christmas references, all the different Christmas carols, all the times someone actually mentioned Christmas.
I would argue mentioning Christmas does not a Christmas movie make. Because a significant amount of movies mention the existence of Christmas without being a Christmas movie.
And just that YouTube video I want to mention, Die Hard by far beat all of the others in the amount of times Christmas and the festivities were mentioned and referenced and how many carols it had.
Well, now that we've gone over what kind of makes a Christmas movie, let's get into what you guys think for this one. Your arguments on why or why not Die Hard fits into these categories, or even a Christmas movie in general.
I'd argue that Die Hard really heavily fits into the Christmas tradition, or the Christmas movie tradition of togetherness and family.
I would argue that it doesn't, because he's there fighting terrorists. His goal is not to save Holly until Holly becomes a target of the terrorist. His goal is to stop the terrorist until they discover that he's his wife.
I see. The first shot of the movie opens up on Bruce Willis's wedding ring, and he's traveling to Los Angeles specifically to help fix his marriage and his relationship with his wife.
I agree he cares about his wife, but I would say that the driving point of the movie has nothing to do with his wife. If he happened to be in that building for unrelated reasons, like if he was Ellis's friend, he would have done things the exact same way he did. So yes, he initially came back to try and reconnect with his family, but he also admits that he has other options for being there. He could just as easily be staying with his best friend who told him he has a house out there. Like,
True.
The idea of him being there for his family is not a driving point of the movie.
No, it's not a driving point, but he does say he specifically traveled out there because, like, he was invited and he wanted to try to make the effort. And also in his little heart-to-heart conversations he had with Al, the police officer, he even comes to the realization how terrible he was not supporting Holly, and now he realizes just how bad of an individual he was, and now he's going to support her fully.
To be fair, we get less character growth from him than we do from Holly, in that in the beginning, Holly explains that she's going by Holly Gennaro because it's weird to be a married woman working for a Japanese company. And by the end, she explains that her name is actually Holly McClane, not Holly Gennaro, when the reporter tries to question her. So we see more of her growing to change her views than we see him doing anything other than saying he's going to change his views. Like, we don't see him actually take any action towards changing his stance on her. We do see her taking actions towards changing her stance.
Yeah, we don't see any actions to him doing it because, well, he's the action hero. It's not his place in the movie to have, like, the actions of being a family. That's where the end scene comes in. He's together with her. They've reconciled. And just how close they're together and holding each other in each other's arms. It's supposed to symbolize them coming together and solving their differences. And that whole heart-to-heart with him and Al revealing that he shot a kid and all that, is kind of their redemption of, I guess, their past troubles and mistakes.
Okay. Do you have other points for why this is a Christmas movie beyond the fact that he reconciles with his wife over the course of the movie?
Yeah.
Because I would argue a significant portion of action movies start with a broken family.
Oh, yeah.
And them reconciling and it having nothing to do with Christmas.
No, I'm not arguing that. I'm just arguing that that's a huge driving factor of this movie, and that helps to lend to the credibility of this being a Christmas movie.
Regardless of it being a Christmas movie, I would agree with the good part of this plot does have to deal with his relationship with his wife. Even though it's not handled in the best or focused for the most of the movie, It is a driving plot for the character of John McClane over the course of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Because he's there, sure, it's his job as a police officer to help dole out justice and protect the innocent, but he's also there as Holly's wife to protect... Or, he's there as Holly's husband to protect his wife. But, also, this movie would have been incredibly different if it didn't take place on Christmas Eve.
So, how so?
So that was actually something I was going to ask here, because
I would argue it would not be significantly different.
I didn't mention one of the requirements, and this is a requirement that I tend to believe is actually a very important one for determining if it's a Christmas movie. If you remove Christmas from the movie, does the movie not work anymore? So I feel like you're getting into that now.
Yeah.
So that's a requirement I believe is actually very important for a Christmas movie.
That is an argument I also had prepared, except my argument was that you could remove Christmas from this movie and it would not change anything about the movie.
Now, I do have to specify one thing. So, for removing Christmas, that doesn't mean that the character's plans change. So, for example, when we're going into this argument, you cannot change what is required for Hans Gruber's plan to work.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in mind when you're changing.
Yeah.
So you can explain that there's multiple ways for John to be there, which definitely there are. Any holiday party, any day of the week where there's an event going on for Holly, of course you can explain why he would show up there. Mm-hmm. The big thing that you're going to have to try to change around here is Hans Gruber's plan.
Yeah. I would say that Hans Gruber's plan is revolving entirely around the fact that it is Christmas. Because
in what way?
He specifically chose Christmas Eve because of the party that they were planning, because the building would be understaffed, so less security, and the only people there aside from the one security guard would be all of the employees there for a Christmas party, so ample selection of hostages.
See, I would argue that it could happen on any of the federal holidays when the business would be closed, and he could just as easily plan around that. If they knew that they were working on a big sale, he could easily find out the fact that they're working on a big sale and they're going to be celebrating a big sale. So long as that sale is happening around any other holiday, like let's say it's happening on 4th of July, business would be just as shut down, there would be just as few people, they could be having a 4th of July party there, and it would be just as few people in the building, and Hans Gruber could have had the exact same plan work out the exact same way.
But also counterpoint, you know the movie Home Alone, you'd consider that a Christmas movie, right?
Maybe.
Because lots of people do, and it is considered a Christmas movie because
Sure.
it takes place in Christmas. That movie could take place at any time of the year, regardless of holiday or not, because the only driving force is that the main character is left home alone because his negligent family
This one actually
leaves.
is different, because the criminals in that case are once again planning a robbery, except they're not planning to burglarize a single building when they need to know a single family is going to go away. Their plan is to burglarize the entire block, so they need a specific time when everyone is going to be going on vacation.
Yeah.
That only works if there's a specific holiday when
for his point,
lots of people would go on
As I
holiday.
said, we have to be able to work Hans Gruber's plan into another date to take Christmas out. The Wet Bandits plan revolves around Christmas because that's the time that this whole area is going away. I'm trying to think, is there another holiday where you could make an argument where lots of people would go away on the same block?
But also, in the movie, it mentions that, it's a Japanese company, and Bruce didn't even believe or think that they celebrated Christmas in Japan. And again, they mentioned it was a party to celebrate Holly.
Yep.
So, but also it was set up as a Christmas party.
I just think that could have easily been like a 4th of July party for the business, and you could have had the exact same circumstances.
But again, since it's a Japanese company, why would they bother celebrating?
Well, now, Peter, I do have to point out one thing about the security guards. They do mention in the movie that the security guards are light that day because it's Christmas specifically. And if you know about how security shifts things work, where Christmas is kind of a togetherness holiday, that's why they're working short staff of security, where any other holiday, if there was staff in the building, could hypothetically have full staff.
Yeah.
It could, but at the same time, if it's any federal holiday when businesses are shut down, it's just as likely that the business would be as empty as it is on Christmas.
Because one thing I just point out, because I have worked in private security does not have holidays. Just like police don't have holidays and emergency crews don't have holidays.
So security would be higher, and there wouldn't be as many hostages for them to take, if any at all, at those holidays.
I feel like this could have happened on any holiday that they were choosing to celebrate her big sale. Like, I think the driving force between the hostages being there is the sale and not the Christmas party. So I feel like them getting access to the hostages has less to do with it being Christmas. Like, they go out of their way to admit that they're more so celebrating her sale than they are celebrating Christmas, so it's not really a Christmas party, so you can't really argue that Christmas is the reason that the hostages are there. And if there aren't going to be people in the building, then there aren't going to be security guard to watch it as well. You're going to have a skeleton crew for an empty building, regardless of whether or not it's a holiday or not.
No, they'd have security regardless of whether there's people there or not, just because there's valuables in the building, like a big vault.
I mean, they let John McClane walk in completely unguarded. They're not too concerned about having people walk in and rob.
They're understaffed for a Christmas party.
I have thought about this as well. There is one other day that I feel does work with Hans Gruber's plan. New Year's. I feel like any other holiday, you can't really argue Hans Gruber's plan, because most other holidays, security don't really tend to... There's not that together with people feel. So if it was October, like Valentine's Day...
Thanksgiving is also another together with people holiday that security would
But I feel like
lessen.
Christmas is the big strong one that you can justifiably say there's going to be skeleton crew for security in the building and there'll be people in the building celebrating.
Yeah.
The only other holiday that fits with, though, I feel, if you were to do it, is New Year's. I feel like every other holiday, it's kind of hard to argue that both those requirements be met. Thanksgiving, it's not really a celebrate with coworkers and people, it's family.
And also, this international company, Thanksgiving might not fall as heavily on that radar, because different countries celebrate Thanksgiving at different times.
But there's two holidays that are about celebrating togetherness, but that would explain why it would be shorter on security, because they're not expecting anything to happen, but also would have people in the building to celebrate, and that's Christmas and New Year's.
Which both fall in the Christmas holidays.
Once again, the fact that it's a Christmas party is not why the people are in the building, so that's not really a requirement for them to have to plan it.
I feel like the requirement for Han's plan to work specifically
is a day when there would not be many people in the building, so there's not as much security. Because, as I've said, they're very lax on security, and I don't think that's because they have a skeleton crew. If you have a skeleton crew, you wouldn't be more likely to let people in. You'd be more concerned about letting people in, and you'd be more heightened security. The fact that they're lax on security means that they're not too concerned about anything happening, which means that they aren't too concerned about people robbing it, and if they have a skeleton crew, then they would be more likely to be worried about people trying to break in than less likely to be worried about people breaking in. So the fact that they act so lax on security leads me to believe that they would have light security on any time the building's empty. You're going to have a skeleton crew in the middle of the night if there's nobody in the building. You're not going to have a full security crew just because it's the middle of the night. You're going to have less people than you are going to have during the daytime. So there's going to be less people any time of the year if they schedule it properly. They just needed the hostages there was the main thing that Hans Gruber needed. Hostages there when there wasn't a full building full of people.
Yeah, exactly. It needs limited security, small amount of staff that can be used as hostage, but just enough that there's a threat and that the FBI would be involved. Also, I guess another thing to specify is he would need someone. It wasn't. So we found it wasn't required, but someone with the code for the vault was needed for the first step of the plan to possibly remove the rest of the plan. And I think Takagi was the only person that had the password.
Yes, Takagi was definitely.
So it would also be something that would expect him to be there for.
Yeah, so something big like
well, I mean,
the celebration
as an argument,
of that big sale and the Christmas holidays, or the Christmas
as an
party.
argument, then it makes less sense for them to do it on Christmas because Takagi specifically says that he doesn't celebrate Christmas. He's only celebrating the big sale. So unless they knew that there was a big sale happening, it's less of an excuse for Takagi to be there for a Christmas party. So it's more likely that they would have him there for a different kind of staff party that wasn't happening on Christmas itself.
But also, they didn't need the code, so they didn't need him there.
I know.
him
I'm
there
just
to
saying,
add
if you're
bonus.
saying one of the requirements is Takagi be there, Christmas is less of an excuse for that to happen.
But the movie would turn out differently in the whole setup of the whole situation without it taking place during that Christmas party. Because they would have had to handle the security differently.
I just feel like changing it to a different holiday could easily... Like, they could have easily written that, not to keep harping on this one day, but as a 4th of July party without needing to change too much. Like, it's already taking place in LA. They don't need to change the weather that's happening or anything like that. They don't need to explain away people not being there because the building's still under construction. So most of the floors aren't fucking occupied anyways. That's already explaining away why there's not a lot of people. Like, I don't think it needs to happen during Christmas for the plot to work out the way that it does.
Now, another thing I do want to point out, and this was people that are making the argument of it being a Christmas movie that I found was a quite interesting thing that I never really thought about myself. But a lot of Christmas movies tend to end with snow.
Yes.
And some people have made the argument that the Barabons falling at the end is to represent the snow falling to end a Christmas
Because
movie.
all the white papers falling from the sky is very reminiscent and kind of symbolic of the traditional Christmas snow that always plays at the end of Christmas movies.
So I guess I put that in a list of, like, that's another thing some people will say is a requirement for a Christmas movie, though. Not every Christmas movie ends with snow at the end.
It's not a requirement, but it's always a nice touch for a Christmas movie.
As a question of my own, if you were to release a Christmas movie, what time of year would you release it?
Christmas movie, generally you'd want to release it closer to December, but it depends on, because different genres of movies do better in different times of the year. And we do have Christmas movies that are released outside based on the genre. For example, around Christmas time, it tends to be the family movies and the romance movies around Christmas that get released. Comedies tend to get closer to the summer period along with action movies.
All I'm saying is Die Hard was released on July 15th, which is the middle of the summer.
Yeah, but also, counterpoint, Miracle on 34th Street, a Christmas movie, also came out in May.
Once again, that's closer to winter than middle of the summer. May is the tail end of winter, beginning of spring.
May?
Or the last couple of years when we get a blizzard here.
We've gotten blizzards well into May.
May is the end of spring.
Oh, fuck. I confused May and March right there. That's my
I did too. It was March that the blizzards happened.
Yes. So I suppose that Christmas movies can happen. I would argue that if you're going to make a Christmas movie, you wouldn't release it in the middle of summer.
It does happen, though.
It does happen.
It does happen.
I would say that is definitely a point against it, though. If you're going to make a Christmas movie and you want to have a point of it taking place during Christmas, it's more likely that you would release it around Christmas time.
Now,
I wouldn't take the point away, though, because other Christmas movies that are actually designated as Christmas movies have been released outside of the Christmas season.
Another point against it is the fact that the director of the movie has come out and said that when they were creating it, it was never intended to be a Christmas movie.
So, that was what I was going to ask. The director himself has said it is not a Christmas movie in intent.
The director said that, Bruce Willis said that, but also the writers of the movie did say that it was a Christmas movie.
So you get ahead of me, because I was also going to bring that up after this discussion, because I did some searching myself, and the writers on the story said they wrote it specifically to be a Christmas story.
Sure. I would argue that the director has a lot more control over what type of movie you're getting than the writers do.
The director has control over how the movie is filmed, but the writers, they're the ones putting in all the messages in the writing and the scripts.
So this kind of gets into a conversation of, there's obviously two different forms of intent going in. Another good movie to classify that we've had this issue have come up is Blade Runner, where the director is... Harrison Ford's character is a replicant. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But Harrison Ford's like, that's stupid. That doesn't make sense. He's not a replicant. It ruins the movie.
I would argue, based on the stuff that's in the movie, which the director has final say over, that he's definitely a replicant. You get lots of hints towards him being a replicant.
We get a sequel that disproves that too as well.
The sequel is non-canonical in my mind.
But also, the director was directing an action movie. The movie is an action movie, yes, but the writers have written in a Christmas movie story.
And we know that intent, regardless of where it's coming from, even on a project like this, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the final a consensus on it. So how far does what the director intended versus what the person that's viewing intends?
I mean, again, we could all come out and agree that The Hangover is a Christmas movie. That doesn't make it a Christmas movie.
But bringing back what I said before, A Wonderful Life, the director never intended for that to be a Christmas movie. Yet it is thought by all to be a Christmas movie.
Yes, I would agree with that. All I'm saying is the fact that we all agree that something is a Christmas movie doesn't make it a Christmas movie. Because we can all go home right now and agree that Rambo's a Christmas movie. That does not make Rambo a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree to that one.
I'm saying we could theoretically, though.
Theoretically, there's a lot of red.
So the fact that one person or all the internet agrees that something's a Christmas movie does not make it a Christmas movie.
No, but it does help that viewings for Die Hard spike specifically.
That's because of the
season.
That's because of the dumb internet argument that it's a Christmas movie. People are doing that as a fucking joke, and it's skewing the fucking numbers. Our podcast is going to make people watch it during Christmas. That doesn't make it a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I watched it during this time. I watched it a couple days ago.
People are going to see
watched it during Christmas.
People are going to see we released an episode about Die Hard on December 28th, and they're like, "Oh, we should rewatch Die Hard." That does not make it a fucking Christmas movie.
Now, to be fair, I'm gonna again. For me, the importance of Die Hard being a Christmas movie or not does not matter to me. But I do tend to watch it in the winter months. That's not through or some sort of ritual or something I need to do. It's just I always just remember that Die Hard exists around that time.
Yeah, it's and my family always watches it in the Christmas months because we always count it as a Christmas tradition because it does contain what is necessary for a Christmas movie. It has the themes of family, togetherness, being generous, helping others when they need it.
How does it contain generosity?
Bruce Willis is risking his life for saving these people. I'd say that's pretty generous.
He's risking his life to save his own life. He's already addressed that he can't leave the building, and specifically says to Hans Gruber over the radio, "I will leave if you unlock the front doors for me," and Hans Gruber says no.
Except he won't leave because his wife is there.
He'll leave and go call the cops and get them to address it. That has been his plan in the beginning. Once the cops show up and they get killed by the terrorists, he now decides he has to stay and resolve the situation himself.
And so you're also rejecting the fact that the scene, or the movie, opens up on his wedding ring and the fact that he's going there to resolve his relationship
I agree
problems.
He's going there to resolve his relationship issues. I just don't think him being put in that situation counts as generosity. Every one of the moves he makes in the beginning is him trying to save his own life. He even addresses he could have tried to save Takagi, but he would have died, and he chose not to save his own life. That's not generosity.
If he wanted to save his own life, all he would have had to do is nothing. And he would have been fine.
I just don't think him...
Well, until the C4 blew up the roof.
Until the C4 blew up the roof, but he didn't have to be up there.
That's true.
I just don't think there's actually a case for you to say that there's actually any form of generosity in that movie. Him risking his life is him being an action hero, not him being generous with his life.
And Argyle being generous to John McClane, being like, "Okay, I'll help you out if..."
Argyle specifically says he's doing that because he wants a better tip for his first shift.
Better tip, yes. But he also risks his own job in...
drinks all the alcohol in the back of the car.
Almost killing a man who may have been a terrorist.
He drinks all the alcohol in the back of the car, which is not his to fucking drink. That's straight up theft. That's not generosity.
But he almost kills a guy.
Because he's fucking drunk. Also, killing a guy is not being generous.
I do like the fact that it's like...
He's risking
He almost kills a guy.
He's risking his own job for the safety of others and to make sure the terrorists can't get away.
So, in that case, where everyone has made points on why it is a Christmas movie or it is a Christmas movie, I figured the only way to determine which of you has the best arguments is to see who can best identify actual Christmas movies. So what I've done is, to make this a little bit fair, I'm going to be reading off fully described plot synopsis of different movies, and you have to tell me if they are a movie or a Christmas movie. So we're going to determine by whoever has the most points at the end. So you get a point for telling me if it's a Christmas movie or not correctly. You get a bonus point if you can name the movie.
All right.
Oh, it's going to be hard.
A new person joins a community of friends, and one of them starts to feel ostracized, leading to conflict.
It certainly sounds like it could be the start of a Christmas movie, depending on the setting.
I would agree it's a Christmas movie. I don't know which one it is.
So you're both saying Christmas movie?
Yeah.
And no guess on what movie?
I could guess The Grinch.
That was Toy Story 1.
Oh.
Which does have a Christmas scene in it, but not a Christmas movie.
Because The Grinch was also ostracized, because he was different. In the Jim Carrey version, anyway.
A bunch of teams have a memorable Christmas night.
Teams?
Teens.
Teams. That sounds kind of like a horror movie also.
I'm going to say that's not a Christmas movie, but it is in fact Gremlins.
Gremlins, yeah.
So, it is considered a Christmas movie by many. It's Black Christmas, which is also notorious for being the first slasher movie.
Okay.
I did get the horror aspect right, though.
Yeah. So, in that movie, it's a bunch of teens in a sorority house that are stalked by a person who specifically kills on Christmas. And in that one, it's the first slasher person in movie history. Also, a little side note for you, that is also one of the Christmas movies that do not have any appearance of Santa Claus in it, but it does have Christmas music and some stuff on the meaning of Christmas. Next one. A man examines his life and, with a stranger, talks out the life moving forward.
Is a Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life, but it is not a Christmas movie, because it was not meant to be a Christmas movie. Going by Peter's logic in this whole thing.
By your semantics, Matt, I do admire that gusto, but it is kind of consensusly a Christmas movie by argument online. Yeah. So that is, both of you get the point for naming the movie correctly, but Peter does get the one for naming his Christmas movie.
I'm just going to stand on my double point for that for clarity and going by Peter's logic for that point.
A couple must learn to live with each other after a lie comes forth.
Not a Christmas movie, no idea what movie it is.
No, that sounds like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, though, to an extent.
Is that your guess for the movie?
Sure.
And are you guessing Christmas movie or not Christmas
Guessing
movie?
not Christmas movie.
Okay. He is correct. That is Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Nice.
A man must learn to live a life alone for the first time on Christmas Eve.
I think that is a Christmas movie. It sounds familiar. I can't place the name.
I'm also going to say it's a Christmas movie. I'm not familiar with what the movie itself is.
Well, no points awarded. It is not a Christmas movie. It is Rambo First Blood.
Okay.
All right. I've never watched Rambo, so I wouldn't know.
Only one person dies. It's not the first Rambo is actually more of a drama, not an action movie. Stallone did a lot of dramas that ended up becoming action movies. A father and son remember and reminisce on their relationship and take a family trip to the mountains.
I'm going to say it is a Christmas movie. I'm not familiar with the movie.
I'm not familiar with that movie whatsoever. I'm going to say no.
No for Christmas movie, and you're saying yes for Christmas movie?
Yeah.
But no guess on the movie?
No guess on the movie.
So it is The Shining.
Fuck.
And it is not a Christmas movie.
Another movie I have not seen. Because horror and all that. Lovely.
Down on his luck man mentors a child. And we'll just put in parentheses there, poorly.
Yeah, I kind of picked up that from just the synopsis.
Is a Christmas movie, is Bad Santa.
I was going to say is a Christmas movie. I have no idea what the name is.
Okay, so it is a Christmas movie. It is Bad Santa.
Okay.
Two men are tortured by a series of traps and puzzles and must survive the night.
Home Alone is a Christmas movie.
Yep.
Yes. To be fair, that also is the synopsis for Saw.
Yep.
Yeah. That was my first thought.
Two men must battle for the fate of their children.
Two men must battle for the fate of their children? That's it?
Yeah, over the course of a day.
Over the course of a day. I'm going to say no. I have no idea.
Is a Christmas movie, is Jingle All the Way.
You were correct.
Oh my god.
That is Jingle All the Way. A A man must survive the night and fight off all spectral assailants.
Oh, that's
Is a Christmas movie,
Christmas
is a
movie.
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol, yeah.
Nope, it's room 1408 with David Cusack.
Oh,
or John Cusack.
fuck that movie.
Huh, okay.
Let's see here. A talented janitor teaches troubled youths to believe in their dreams.
Is a Christmas movie.
Isn't a Christmas movie, don't know which one.
Don't
it
know
is.
the name.
It isn't a Christmas movie, it's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, that's one way of describing Freddy.
Another movie I've never seen because horror. I feel this is stacked against me.
To be fair, well, there's only been 2 horror movies in this list so far.
3.
3.
Black Christmas.
Black Christmas.
Shining.
Oh yeah, The Shining. I never really considered
Also,
that a horror
Room
movie.
408 I would kind of consider a horror movie.
3 friends have a party to end all parties.
Isn't a Christmas movie, is Project X, if that's what it's called?
Sounds like a recipe for disaster. I'm going to say not a Christmas movie.
I guess for the movie.
No.
The Night Before, considered a Christmas movie.
Considered, but is it?
Yep, so it's a movie about 3 friends who are they have an annual party each year on Christmas Eve.
Oh, I know that fucking movie.
And
yeah,
one of them is having a kid, so they decide to have one last party and
do
to
a bunch of
celebrate
drugs.
The end of stuff.
Oh, I see.
So essentially, it's them finding the meaning of family and Christmas, essentially.
Okay.
A man to save his career must find a partner and will stop at any lengths to get them.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
Is a Christmas movie, is specifically the Santa Claus 2, the Mrs. Claus.
Right. Yep. Definitely Christmas movie.
Now, for this one, I do want to point out that the reason I put this one in here is the Santa Claus 2 is considered a Christmas movie, but also meets none of the requirements for Christmas
Yeah,
movies.
none.
Yep.
None whatsoever.
I
Except
mean, it features Santa.
That's the only one.
features Santa, happens during Christmas, and
Fucks a lot of women. Yeah, that
Yeah.
too.
involves family, but not in a good light.
Yeah.
Not in a good light at all.
Kind of a rapey light for
A little
family.
bit. A man accused of a crime must rely on a child to prove his innocence. Raise your hand when you have your answer, because I realize we've been doing this a little bit weird, which causes some ties. So when you have an answer, raise your hand, and then we're going to hear both of them.
Yeah. What was the... Read that again?
A man accused of a crime must rely on a child to prove his innocence. Okay, Christmas movie or not Christmas movie?
Not.
Yes.
Movie?
Santa Claus.
Don't know.
So it is a Christmas movie, but it is Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, that works.
A bullied child is discarded by society and then realizes he can use his gift to help others. Okay, Christmas movie or not?
Not
Not.
Christmas movie.
What movie?
Don't know.
Mastermind.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah. I said... Oh, you said child. Child threw me off. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
of course. Right, he was a kid.
Well, like I said, I tried to make these as neutral as
Yeah.
possible to not give away if they're on either end.
Okay.
A man dealing with the death of his parents must find a way to better his city over the holidays.
I'm going to say is, but I can't place the title because I've seen too many sappy Christmas movies with that same synopsis.
Isn't Batman Forever.
Close. Batman Returns.
Huh.
Because Batman Returns is the only one that takes place on Christmas.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if it was Returns or Forever that takes place on Christmas.
Forever has Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, that's what threw me off.
2 teens find themselves together and find love and magic on Christmas Eve.
Sorry, say that one more time.
2 teens find themselves stuck together and find love and magic on Christmas Eve.
I don't know the title. I'm just going to say no because you're saying expressly Christmas Eve and you're trying to stay neutral.
I'm also going to say no.
So, you guys already made a stance on this one, but Gremlins, and online it is considered a Christmas movie.
That's fair. We both
Really?
took our stance and said Gremlins was a
It's
Christmas
considered a Christmas movie online?
Yep.
From what I've seen online, it is not considered a Christmas movie.
There are people that, specifically the arguments against Gremlins is that it's a horror movie and it can't be a Christmas movie, but that doesn't really work because Christmas is more of a blanket of a movie and
Yeah.
not really a genre.
Because any genre can fit into it.
Exactly. We learn the meaning of Christmas between an adventure of brothers.
Again, I don't know the name, but I am going to say it is a Christmas movie.
I'm going to say it isn't a Christmas movie, and I'm going to guess 4 Brothers.
And do you have a guess for the movie?
No.
Okay. It isn't a Christmas movie. It's Life of Brian. Monty Python.
Ah, that works.
The meaning of Christmas is Jesus.
Yeah, but you specifically said the meaning of Christmas, and a Christmas movie has to involve, like, finding the meaning of Christmas or such in some way.
the meaning of Christmas is basically Jesus, though. That's the trick I was playing on you. With
Yeah,
that
they're
title.
not actually searching for the meaning of Christmas. They're searching for Jesus.
Yeah. Two unlikely strangers find love, but can they survive their families and the cold? It's like I'm getting better at this as I go through
Or worse.
it. I see how it is. I'm in charge of the points, Matt.
I know. I'm gonna say it's not a Christmas movie.
I'm gonna say it's not a Christmas movie, even though it feels weird given the guess I have for the movie.
Okay, and what are the movies, you think?
Don't know.
4 Christmases?
No guess?
No guess.
It's not a Christmas movie, it's Titanic.
Ah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
A family terrorizes all that they meet, and not everyone will survive. Okay?
Alright, I'm going to guess it is a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
and
I'm
going
also
to guess
guessing it is a Christmas
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
movie. I don't have a guess for the movie.
It is National Lampoon's
Hell
Christmas
yeah.
Vacation. I put that specifically because I'm pretty sure the cat died.
Yes. Very, very violently.
This is my favorite one I have written down for poorly describing a movie. Terrorist destroys town to show the corruption of capitalism.
Destroys town.
To show the corruption of capitalism. Okay?
Is a Christmas
Is.
movie.
Yep. So we're both saying it is.
Yep.
And I'm going to say it's The Grinch.
I'm going to say it's Santa Claus 3.
It is the Grinch.
Ah, fuck.
So, we're going to tally up these points here. So, for some of the movies, these are movies that neither of you guessed correctly. So you guys did not guess for Christmas movies, Black Christmas, Gremlins, The Night Before, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which I honestly thought you guys were going to get.
Fair.
Yeah, the child part threw me off.
The movies you guessed were Christmas movies and weren't were Batman Returns, 1408, First Blood, and Toy Story.
Yep.
So that's 8 incorrectly guessed. For movies that Peter only got correctly, we have It's a Wonderful Life, Jingle All the Way, Nightmare on Elm Street, he guessed correctly that it wasn't a Christmas movie, Miracle on 34th Street, and Life of Brian. For Matt, we had correctly guessed Mr. and Mrs. Smith, The Shining, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And for shared points, we have Bad Santa, Home Alone, Santa Claus 2, Titanic, and The Grinch. So overall, let's take a look here. So that's 5 points solely for you for guesses. We have
4 solely from me.
4 solely for you, and 4 shared points. So let's see here. That's 9 currently to you, and 8
to me.
for you. So let's go through and see which ones you guessed correctly for the movie. Matt got Mr. and Mrs. Smith correct. He got National Lampoon's correct. And he got The Grinch correct.
Yes.
So that's 11 for Matt.
For this, you correctly guessed Santa Claus 2.
Yep.
No one got Titanic. Home Alone and Bad Santa.
I think we both got Home Alone correct.
Yeah.
And I did get Bad Santa.
Okay, so Bad Santa, and then both of you point for Home Alone.
So that's 12 for Matt, and that's 12 for me now, too.
Oh, that's funny.
For these two, I did guess both the movies. I think Matt also got It's a Wonderful Life. I don't think he got Jingle All the Way, though.
Yeah, I did not get Jingle All the Way.
So that's 14 for me and 13 for Matt.
Until the end of the year, maybe. And besides, the most important thing is going to be coming up, and that's my birthday episode. So before we get into the hint for that, we're going to have our wind down here as always.
Yep.
So, First off, do we have any emails?
No emails.
No one's unfortunately guessed this episode correctly as of now, nor the last episode, any guesses since that were correct. And on top of that, we have no comments on the YouTube page as well. So, I think the only fitting question for the end of this episode to the audience is, do you think this movie is a Christmas movie? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie or Christmas-adjacent movie? I think we know everyone's answers on that.
Yes.
I think all three of us agree with the audience, because we all know what the audience is going to say. We don't have to verbally say what the audience is going to say.
Yep.
We just all know what the audience is going to say and agree with it.
Oh, okay.
Nothing more will be said on this topic.
I'm neutral, so I will agree with the audience wholeheartedly.
No matter what, this topic will never be brought up by the three of us again. I got unreasonably angry towards Matthew in the middle there. I will be honest with myself.
So, with that, do you guys have any suggestions for the audience between these episodes?
I'm going to recommend an actual Christmas movie, which is Gremlins. Don't start questioning why I draw the line at Die Hard and not at Gremlins. Just don't. It's not worth your time.
And, I'm going to recommend something that's not a Christmas movie, because we're getting away from that and towards the new year. I'm going to recommend the movie 2012. It wasn't, because it wasn't the greatest movie, but it is kind of fun to watch.
Another
and
John Cusack movie, too.
My favorite thing about 2012 is that in like another decade, we can try and convince children that it was a documentary and not fake.
Because the neat thing about 2012 is that, oh no, the world's ending, which...
it's still kind of accurate.
It's up in the air right now, but at the end, there's promise of a brighter future. So, like, next year kind of thing. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe a brighter future for this podcast where I stop hating Matthew at some point in the near future.
So I actually have a Christmas movie as a recommendation, which, now thinking about it, we're recording before Christmas, but by the time...
This will come out on the couple days after Christmas, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but I was going to actually recommend the Jim Carrey The Grinch movie.
That is a phenomenal Christmas
movie.
movie.
And to be fair, it's fun to watch regardless anytime, because Jim Carrey just nails it completely.
I always remember that scene of him doing yoga.
It's just like peak Jim Carrey, too.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Which has come back, thankfully, with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, because Jim Carrey was peak Jim Carrey again in that movie.
Yes, absolutely.
So with that, of course, if you want to answer the questions that we've asked today, or you would like to send us an email with any complaints, specifically to anyone who we might have disagreed with, or if you have a suggestion for what we should do an episode on, email us at whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com, spelled the way words normally are. Of course, we're also on YouTube and Instagram. Make sure to follow us, give us a like, a comment, a star. You can say something that's ridiculous. You can even say something that doesn't make any sense. 5 stars. Cured my diarrhea. Who knows?
1 star. Made love while listening to them.
1 star. Made too much sense and I don't like it.
1 star. I just like the voice of the one. You know which one I'm talking about. His voice. I just like it.
Yeah, that one.
5 stars. The Keith guy's pretty cool, but I don't know why he's talking to himself in 3 different voices. Anyways, as already mentioned, our next episodes that are going to be coming out, aside from the Wimpy Bite, is going to be my birthday episode, quickly followed by Peter's birthday episode.
It's just going to be a bad month, let's be honest.
So for these ones...
An interesting month.
Yeah, that too.
If you were listening to the last time this happened, we like to give a hint, but the other 2 people have no idea what the episode's going to be on, and they're going to have to be at the exact same point as all of you listeners at the time of it. Though I fear, this time it might not be too difficult, because tune in next time where I explain to you all why busting makes me feel good.
Are we talking about porn?
I think we are.